But you don't know this virus. It's new, it's different. It mutates and goes in different directions with a different strain of itself. So whether I'm present or absent, the Executive Council of the Nation of Islam must call our scientists. Come and let's sit down. Our virologists, our epidemiologists, those of us who know the science. We cannot let them bring anything to us that we don't dissect.
Still dissecting. We still won't let them bring anything to us that we are not willing to dissect. And we're going to dissect some justice tonight.
Yes.
Listen, do a 2 snaps up, like, yes. Snaps for justice. Either way, welcome in, audience. Thursday Night Talks. Welcome. So happy to be here and so happy to have the team here. We do have an exciting topic. So because we have such an exciting topic and it's so prevalent to things that are happening in today's environment, I mean, just everywhere. I mean, anywhere you look in the news, we want to make sure that you do what, right? Because Brother Lau going to say it in a minute.
Get your peoples.
There you go.
All of them. Go get them right now. Go get your peoples.
Go get your peoples. We want you to make sure that you are sharing this link with everybody, your friends, your families, co-workers, anybody whom you are associated with, because the topic it's real and it's happening, and and we're going to have some informative information come through the 7th Freedom Coalition tonight's Thursday Night Talk. So get your peoples, get everybody in. Again, we're on Facebook, we're on IG, and we're on YouTube. So there's no excuse. I'm just saying, right? There's really no excuse.
Get your people. Now, look, you're going to go run and get them afterwards after something happened and go wrong. You better get it now while we can keep it right. Go get your peoples.
Absolutely. And you never want to miss the beginning, because the beginning of our conversations are always hot and on point. Just want to keep that out there. It's hot and on point. Right. We're always hitting those sensitive things that you need to hear at the right time. So I don't want to belay the message, but I just want to again thank the 7th Coalition team. Right?
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we are still hanging in there, and they're adding their values in the comment areas. So if you see one of us or someone is commenting, we're in the chats and we're helping to kind of move that conversation along. And the team here that you see here tonight, everybody works super hard. And Sister Kalila, Brother Lau, Brother Tony.
And guess who else? The hostess or the mostest, Sister Michelle. She works hard too, family. You know, you gotta get love to the hostess with the mostest.
I'm sure. I don't know if I've been much help lately. I'm holding on. I'm holding on, Brother Lau. But listen,
that's what we do, man.
I just want to thank everybody. And again, I'm very appreciative to be here with your team and help delivering the message that we have tonight. Again, very powerful topic, very powerful guest. Hope that everyone gets something out of it and can contribute right at the end when they let us know how we can help and assist. So anyway, I won't get into too much more. But anyway, I am very thankful. I am your Sister Michelle. Very glad to be here. Brother Lau, I will turn it over into your capable hands and we will do the rounds. And you know how we do. We just get into it. But before
they go get their peoples.
Go get your peoples.
Go get them. Right. Go get. Some of y'all are laughing when we say that, but some of y'all had those go get your people's moments. You're all in tune to the show. It's going real good. You be like, oh, hey, so-and-so, come here. I'm just trying to give you an advance notice, family, so you can catch all of this tonight. So, family, you know, we just like to say, assalamu alaikum to my Muslim brothers and sisters. Praise the Lord to my Christian brothers and sisters. Ungawa Black Power to the Black revolutionaries, and to all you peace and freedom-loving people across the land. Peace and blessings. We welcome you to Thursday Night Talks. And you're wondering, for those who don't know, what is this 7th Region Coalition? Well, let's not act like we haven't been through some stormy years these last couple of years. Let's not act like we haven't been in situations where we have been underinformed, misinformed, and other things misinterpreted. But can you imagine being a people traveling on a ship and it's dark but then there's a lighthouse to give you the proper information and inspiration that you need to be able to get through the dark hour and the dark storm. And speaking of the dark hour and the dark storm, tonight is one that hits all of us, all of our families. So this is not one you can run away from.
Right.
No justice,
No peace.
I think y'all know how that one goes right there. And so we'll tell you more about that as we get ready to introduce our show. But right now, brothers and sisters, I want to introduce you to another one of the great team of the 7th Region Coalition, Sister Khalila Muhammad.
Oh, hold on.
There you go. All right.
There you go. That seemed smooth. That was smooth. That's smooth. That's smooth.
I want to first start off in the most holy name of Allah, always bearing witness that there's no God but Allah, and bearing witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I would like to greet my sisters and brothers and cousins, nephews, nieces, all of these beautiful people. Scott, you can tell I'm clapping. I'm so country, trying to kill something, while talking. This country, because I want to be. But anyway,
it's just in your blood, sister. If you're not doing that, you doing.
I'm flat. Anywho, this is another topic. I know everybody's like, Khalila, everyone is your topic. This one here is a topic that really drives home to me on a personal level, because I have a brother that's incarcerated that actually have served over 20 years, and right now got out of jail. Let's start over. Was serving 40 years, got out of jail, right? Mm-hmm. Violated probation, and now he's back in jail, probably doing the rest of his 40-year sentence.
Wow.
He just an innocent 17-year-old persuaded by an older man to do a crime that he committed, but out of chase, because he had a fear of this older man. Now he is serving this time because he did something when he was 17 years old. How many of us in our family right now that we are screaming for justice, and it's falling on deaf ear because we don't know how to pursue what is needed to get justice for your family? Well, this is the show today to bring that home for everyone in your family. If you don't know anybody, which I'm pretty sure you do, that has been wrongfully accused of something that they did not commit, this is the show that you need to tune into. Without further ado,
or railroaded.
Oh, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Or plead under the jail.
Of course.
Y'all know some of the people. Go get your peoples.
Of course. This is the show for you. So definitely, without further ado, I'm not going to belabor the point, because we have a lot of people that's going to be actually sharing their testimonies with us, but also trying to identify what happened, why it happened, and why we need to be aware of what is going on. But without further ado, I'm going to bring out their brother, the hard-hitting brother Tony Muhammad.
Oh, he's getting so good. He just grabs with one hand now. All right. He's just a one-hand baton grab now.
I'm getting good at that, brother. I'd like to begin by saying, in the name of the one God who bears many names, some know him as Jah, others know him as Jehovah, some know him as Dios, some know him as Bon Dieu, some know him as Al-Abdumare, whatever the name that you call on the God, call on the God. I bear witness to his oneness. I bear witness to all the prophets and messengers of God. And I greet everyone. We always greet one another in peace. We say assalamu alaikum. We could also say shalom. We could say peace. We could say many multiple things. It is important that we do greet one another in peace, because we are living in a world that is so adverse.
Mm.
And where, as Brother Lyles, you put it, that is a very popular chant. No justice, no peace. And we are not experiencing peace as long as we are experiencing injustice.
Right.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan himself has said that injustice destabilizes the mind.
Mm.
And so if you think about the injustices that we experience here in this country and beyond, whenever any of us experience injustice, we are not really in a competent position mentally, oftentimes because of our anger, because of our rage, to really be held accountable in some cases. So we all are in need of a healing. We are in need of justice. And Dear Family, as a 7th Region Coalition to help save lives, created and instituted by our 7th Regional Minister, who's the 7th Regional Representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Student Minister Patrick Muhammad. I am very honored and
we love you, big brother.
Pleasure to be here serving in this capacity to help save lives in this hour. Brother Lau, one more thing I'd like to say before we continue. Special shout out to our Brother Anthony Muhammad, who has another segment of the 7th Region Coalition.
Doing some
and
awesome work.
He's doing it. He has the 7th Region Coalition to help save lives, the next generation.
Right.
Program. You can check that out on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tune into the 7th Region Coalition to Help Save Lives page here on Facebook for more information.
So, Brother Tony, with those beautiful words, and I'm glad you slowed it down again, because we're about to get this on and popping, because I know y'all already went and you got your peoples, right?
That's right.
When we say no justice, no peace, the 7th Region Coalition tonight is going to help you to know justice. I know somebody missed that. Somebody missed that. You missed it.
Say it again. Say it again, Brother Lau.
Maybe not spelling it right.
Brother Lau, I'm gonna do what you do.
One more again,
I'm sorry. I missed what you said, Brother Lau.
We're going to help you know justice. That is KNOW. To know justice. Because there's so much that we don't know and we're underinformed about when it comes to justice. So we have a powerful program tonight. We have some expert testimony. We got people who've been through it and back. But I tell you, this topic is so important that we thought we bring it to you in this manner. And so if we could at this time, dear family, as we introduce this topic, and I want you to know that we're going to be joined by some very, very powerful people this evening. Very shortly, you're going to get a chance to hear from our beloved brother, Thomas Raynard James, who spent 32 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit. He's only been home for a few days, and you're going to hear from him tonight on the 7th Region Coalition. You're also going to hear from one of our great, he's a freedom fighter. He's been a state senator, and he's also worked with the NAACP locally here, our big brother, doing some great work in terms of how legislation plays a role into the topic of justice. That is former Senator Dwight Bullard. And we're going to have our beloved sister with us tonight, Teresa Enriquez, who you're going to meet momentarily, who, in my estimation, she works for the most progressive public defender in the entire United States. And he happens to be right here in Dade County, Chief Public Defender Carlos Martinez. But as we get ready to do that, family, if we could do this, I want to get ready to talk to our beloved sister Teresa about some things, but I want to play this film clip so people can be aware of Thomas J's story. News clip's about 2 minutes long. I don't know if you've been hiding under a rock or you haven't heard or you're not fully familiar, but it will kind of help you just kind of understand. First of all, put on those moccasins, and I want you to imagine yourself being in prison for a crime that you didn't commit and being imprisoned for a time frame, think about it, of 32 years. Let's take a look and a listen right here, family.
Left without justice. Local 10's Ian Margot continues our live team coverage. Ian. Yeah, let's be very clear. This is a story about a criminal justice system not only failing this man, but failing the family of a man that was murdered 30 years ago.
Mr. James, your conviction and sentence is hereby vacated.
After more than 30 years in prison, Thomas Raynard James is a free man.
It's been a long time coming, but I'm glad it's finally up.
His story starts back in January of 1990. A man named Francis McKinnon was murdered, and witnesses told detectives they believed a man they knew, named Thomas James, was involved. That Thomas James, who also lived in Miami, was in custody at the time, so he couldn't have been involved. But police included Thomas Raynard James's photo in a lineup, and a witness swore he was the murderer.
The state's case back in 1991 rested largely upon that positive identification. There was really no other evidence of his guilt.
For 3+ decades, James sat in prison but always maintained his innocence. Then, recently, that eyewitness told investigators she may have made a mistake all those years ago. And in 2021, the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Justice Project began looking into his case. James's attorney, Natalie Figures, spent countless hours petitioning on his behalf. And finally, on Wednesday, the state attorney's office announced their decision.
Thomas Raynard James is actually innocent of the crimes of first-degree murder, armed robbery with a firearm, armed burglary, and aggravated assault with a firearm for the murder of Francis McKinnon.
The judge quickly approved their motion to vacate his sentence and conviction, and just a few hours later, James was finally released.
I'm at a loss of words. It's kind of hard to describe the feelings that I'm feeling right now. Best thing I can tell you is it feels wonderful. It's wonderful.
So in Florida, if someone is wrongfully convicted, they are eligible to get up to $50,000 per year for every single year they spend in prison. But because James was a convicted felon before he was wrongfully convicted, he cannot get that money. However, his attorney says her and the state attorney are going to be working together to try and fight that and get him the money he deserves after 30 years lost in his life. Live in Miami, I'm Ian Margol, Local 10 News.
Newfound freedom.
Think about that.
That doesn't even
That-
make any sense. I promise.
That was a whole lot that was said right there, dear family. And as that whole lot was said, I want us to begin to think about putting ourselves in that situation. But we don't have to do it right now, because I'm going to bring up our brother, the brother you just heard from, who was in that situation. And that's our brother you're looking at there right now, Brother Thomas Raynard James, known as Brother J. Brother J, how are you, my dear brother? Can you hear us? I think you're on mute.
I'm having a problem with my mic, but
There you are. We can hear you now, my brother.
I can't hear.
You can't hear, but we can hear you.
I wonder.
Okay. We can hear you, brother. So I tell you what, since you can't hear us, man, and you got the floor, and we know you're running here and there. First of all, welcome home, brother. Second of all, anything you want to share with our brothers and sisters right now, my brother, you have the floor.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for having me on here. Thanks to the Circle of Brotherhood and everybody else that's supporting me and my situation, which is ongoing. I'd like to share the fact that I've written a book. I'm still dealing with getting it published. It's entitled "If the Walls Could Talk." The subtitle is "Would You Listen?" This book is basically I'm exposing, while at the same time enlightening. Exposing the system, the Florida criminal, and what I call the Florida criminal injustice system. And I'm enlightening the people, meaning the taxpaying citizens, as to how we got to this point. With people being wrongly convicted, people being put in prisons, in jails, falsely for extended periods of time, unfair trials, stuff like this. The book one thing I can guarantee about this book is anybody that reads it, you won't be disappointed when you finish.
Mm.
I'm at the time we're taking pre-orders on my official website, which is justice, the number 4, JAY.info. That's justice for J.info. Almost anything and everything that I've been on is on my website or will be on now.
Give that website one more time, Brother Thomas.
It's justice, JUSTICE, the number 4, JAY.info. Moving forward, I'm in the process of trying to establish some type of organization, foundation, to go back into prisons and assist guys that some of them were similarly situated as I was, and some just have sentences that's too long. There's a lot of things that's wrong with the Florida criminal justice system, and I don't want to take up all the time talking about that. But it's in the book. And I think we as citizens, because I'm out here now and I am a citizen, and I'm a taxpayer, a free taxpaying citizen. We need to go back in there and do something about that.
Wow.
How admirable it is, my brother.
Right.
Yeah,
that
that's something that's very, very. Go ahead, brother.
No, we're just thanking you, brother, because you've been through this,
right?
And you're going back after the other brothers and sisters, man. That's saying something.
That's right.
Yeah, because somebody has to do it. It might be a hard job, but somebody has to do it, and I think that somebody is me. Because I'm passionate about the people that I left behind. I made promises to people that I left behind. And I understand how the cries, people are crying out. I cried out for 30-something years and nobody would listen to me. Or at least it appeared that way. 2 people did listen to me, and they actually was very instrumental in me getting to the point where I'm at now, with me being liberated and my wrongful conviction being exposed, because they listened to what I said and they took my situation to other people that was in a position to help. And that's how I ended up being in GQ magazine with the report.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, that article in GQ magazine, it exposed our brother's story to the world. And that's when the engines and the wheels really started to turn and get our brother's case going. And I want to share this, that news clip that we showed. That reporter in that news clip, Ian, he found out about our brother's case while he was standing outside of the state's attorney's office and happened to see a rolling truck go by that had the advertisement about our brother's case. Otherwise, he would not have known about it.
Wow.
Wow. And so we have access to our brother. We're definitely not going to keep him long tonight, but I do want to give you an opportunity, dear brother, in case you want to say anything else this evening. And I know some of our people may want to give you some love, brother, as well.
Yeah. The other thing is, I was locked up for 32 calendar years, and I'm out here now, and I'm practically out here with really literally nothing. Everything that I've gotten so far, of course, it was given to me, and I'm so appreciative of the people that have showed me that love and that support. And there's so many people that it's been an outpouring. People giving me clothes, shoes. For the most part, people dressed me, made sure I had simple things, deodorant, stuff like this. And I'm in the process of trying to get situated where I can support myself. I'm still battling trying to get driver's license. I just was able to get my ID because of COVID. The process is slow.
Right.
So what happens is what I'm saying is I said that to introduce the fact that my family and friends has created a GoFundMe page, a
Beautiful.
GoFundMe account for me. And I mean, whatever donations that a person can stand to give or willing to give, I definitely need it because I not only do I need to get myself situated, I'm gonna use any residual fund that's left that I have left to get my organization up and running. That account gonna do so much for so many people. So I ask anybody that's out there that's within the sound of my voice um, to do whatever you can, and whatever any type of support really. I mean, if you know somebody that I can contact, it could be financial, it could be through other resources. I'm taking it, I'm open for it, and I appreciate it all.
We appreciate
Thomas.
you and your stand there, brother.
Yes.
Anybody
We
want to say
definitely
anything to our brother before he
we
leaves?
definitely need that GoFundMe because I definitely want to post it for our audience so they can actually go to
Absolutely.
that GoFundMe. If you can give us that information.
Um, Actually, the anybody that clicks on that goes on to the website,
Okay.
anybody that goes to my website, they can access it.
Okay.
The link, they just click on to the donate, and it'll open up to that page.
Excellent. Brother, I'm gonna tell
But
you before
what
you
I
go,
can
go ahead, brother.
I can forward the link to Brother Lyle because I know I have your number, so I can forward you
Yes,
the
sir.
link and ask that you share it with everybody else that's on here or anybody else,
And that we
any and
will.
everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
Brother Tony, you
I
wanted to say
appreciate
something, sir?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to commend our brother Thomas, because many of us, the way that we approach things, we don't think about the whole. Our brother's thinking about the whole when it comes down to these experiences. These kind of experiences are very common when it comes down to Black and Latino men
Right.
and also Native Americans in this country. When it comes down to the issue of injustice, excessive um, time being served, that's a very common thing. Uh, False accusation. Oftentimes, what ends up happening is plea deals. Plea deals end up happening very often. The person never committed the crime. The wrong person is being accused. Well, I don't have the money to pay an attorney. Well, let's go ahead and just take a plea. But I didn't
We'll be
commit the
hearing
crime.
about that tonight.
Hey, this
Yeah.
is the situation
Yeah.
that you're in right now. Oh well, I'll take the plea, and you end up spending a long period of time,
Yeah.
or it stays on your record, and now you experience a great amount of difficulty just even getting employed and living a sane life, a
Right.
normal, quote unquote, normal life.
Well
So, my
said, my
brother,
brother.
I commend you, and I wish you well on your efforts, because you didn't go, woe is me. You just decided, well, why did I experience this? God has a
Right.
great purpose for you, my brother,
Right.
and we look forward to backing you up on these efforts, my brother.
Excellent.
And I definitely need it. I mean, we, not me, but we,
Yes,
we
sir.
need that because those guys, people. It's like for me, I knew that I was one man taking on the army with a handgun,
Mm.
and it's almost a no-win situation. It was by and through the grace of God that I was able to um, find somebody or got somebody to listen to what I had to say. And I never asked anybody to believe that I was innocent or any of the facts that things that I said when I talked about my situation, when I wrote about my situation. But I asked everybody to do one thing, and that is to admit that if what I was saying was true, then I had been wrongly convicted. But I knew that in order for you to make that assessment and reach a conclusion, you would have to look into my situation. And then you will realize that I'm not just talking, that those things that I was saying was factual.
Right.
You know what
I
I'm
want to
saying?
tell you,
And that's the case with a lot of brothers that's in prison.
Well,
Yes,
Brother
sir.
Thomas, you have created a lot of allies, my dear brother. And can we bring our two guests up from the dugout right now? Because I want him to see their faces. And the reason why I want you to see their faces just before we let you go, dear brother, is because, again, there were people out here working for you who you might not have even known have been working out here for you. I'm talking about Senator Dwight Bullock, and I'm talking about from the Public Defender's Office, Teresa Enriquez. Brother, you have reunited us, brother, to work together on justice issues, and we're forever grateful for you that, Brother Thomas Raylon James.
I'm glad. I'm definitely. I'm glad. I mean, I'm not. I would never be happy with what happened to me.
Mm.
But if my love for the people is that great, if I had to sacrifice and do it again just for this to happen, then I
Come
would.
on. Come on.
What a statement. Right there, family.
Mr.
If
Buck.
the walls could talk. And there's pre-orders. So, family, brother, we are going to be flooding your website. We're going to be flooding your GoFundMe page. And we're also going to be surrounding you with the support and love that you need for those dark days when it gets real quiet, my brother.
And I just want to bring the audience to the attention of the actual screen that's across. This is our dear brother, our dear brother GoFundMe. You can actually go right to that page. I just saw it. It's an actually very beautiful page with his family just in full support of his efforts. So please, please, without further ado, just make sure that you just go to the page, look at what the brother is saying, because again, I know for a fact that every person that's at the sound of my voice has actually been through the same experience. And guess what? Their voice have not been heard. Now you're talking about a person that has been liberated, right? And now can talk to justice, and you can see the cry of justice to be heard. So our brother needs our help.
That's right.
You know, with a small or large donation, it will help him tremendously get what he needs to do. This brother say he just don't want to help himself. He don't want to go get no Bentley. This brother say he want to. This brother say he want to go and help other people with the money that we will be donating to our brother. So, brother, I salute you in regards to your efforts, beloved.
Much love. Brother, you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we look forward to working with you on this journey, my dear brother. We have nothing but love for you, brother.
I am the voice for the voice.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
That's right.
I'm the voice for the voices.
Come on, my brother. So boldly
we
said.
are the voice for the voice.
Yes, sir.
That's right. That's
Beautiful.
right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So we thank you, brother, for sharing. I mean, for you, those who don't know, brother, since the second he was released, has been bombarded with interviews and phone calls and appointments. And I mean, I just want you to imagine, you know, so brother, we're honored, and we're not going to keep you a second longer this evening, my dear brother.
Right.
But know that you got brothers and sisters that love you, and we're going to have a dialogue tonight about justice and what we need to be doing about it, brother. So we salute your stand, my brother.
If anybody out there is incarcerated and they can hear this or they see it, I'm a man of my word. I'm coming. I'm coming.
Praise be to Allah. Yeah.
Whew. That's powerful. That's like a DVD.
Yeah.
That's all, folks, on that. Beautiful, beautiful.
That's what we need.
So,
that's
what
we need.
brother, we thank you for that, and we look forward to that. Go ahead, brother.
The Florida criminal justice system is just like a mousetrap. It's an irreducible complexity. And, you know, the difference is if you got a mousetrap which is made up of like 5 parts, and if one of those parts are not working properly, then you have a dysfunctional mousetrap. But unlike that, the Florida criminal justice system, if you have something that, if one part of that system is not functioning as intended, you don't have a dysfunctional justice system. It automatically inverts into an injustice system. And
Wow.
I've made it my personal business to try to, in some way, at some point, ensure that the justice system never, ever again be an injustice system to anybody.
Wow, brother. And the two
To
people that you
anybody.
are right next to right now, brother, have committed their lives and their careers to doing the same thing. That's why this army and this storm is getting so powerful, you know.
Right.
And I just want to bring them into the record, dear family, because something you just said is a perfect opportunity to bring in Teresa. I want somebody to get prepared to read her bio because I want people to know that we're coming with justice. We want people, you know, that you're qualified to talk about what you're talking about. Brother Jay said something key. And Teresa, before you answer the question, I want somebody to read your bio, but I want you to think about it. He talked about the whole system.
Right.
And I know that ACLU report might be a good lead-in because it talked about those particular kind of things. But could one of my beloved coalition members read our sister into the record, please?
I shall. I can do that. So I'm going to read Teresa Enrique bio. So Teresa is an executive chief assistant of the litigation for the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office. She oversees the felony division, capital litigation unit, civil mental health unit, indefinite civil commitment unit, and drug court. In her 27 years as an assistant public defender, Miss Enrique has represented countless indigent,
Indigenous.
indigent clients charged with overseas across the spectrum of Florida's penal code. In 2011, the Florida Administration of Criminal Defense Lawyers Miami chapter awarded the Rodney Thaxton Against All Odds award to her for her work on a defense team of the highly publicized and very unpopular Baby Lollipops case. The Greater Miami chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union awarded her the C. Clyde Atkins Civil Liberties Award for her work on behalf of those facing the death penalty in Miami-Dade County. In 2015, the Walkie D. Ferguson Jr. Bar Foundation honored her with her Distinguished Honoree Award. In recognition of her dedicated service to the Miami-Dade community in 2021, the National Legal Aid and Defender Association awarded her the Kute, I think it's Dots Prize, to honor her for significantly contributing to the enhancement of human dignity and quality of life of those individuals who are unable to afford legal representation. Ms. Enrique is the president of Do the Right Thing of Miami, Inc., and serves on the board of directors of Legal Services of Greater Miami, Inc., and the Fountainhead Residency. She is the past president of the the Miami chapter of the Florida Association of the Criminal Defense Lawyers, past secretary of the League of Women, Voters of Miami-Dade, and former member of the ABA's Standing Committee of Legal Aid and Indigent Defendants. When not at work, she's co-parents her 4 children with the love of her life, Michael. Beautiful.
That's quite a bio there, sister.
Welcome, Miss
Teresa.
Teresa.
You've been putting in that work. Y'all give her some love, man. She's been putting in work, man. So, Sister Teresa, what say you about what our brother called this mousetrap of a system?
I think that Mr. James has his finger on the pulse of exactly what's happening in this community and the problems with our criminal justice system. First and foremost, Mr. James, I am completely horrified by what happened to you. And honestly, I feel compelled to apologize to you on behalf of the entire criminal legal system. Although, frankly, those words fail, okay? Absolutely fail to give you what you deserve based on what you're doing. And what's interesting is just to piggyback on your, talking about the GoFundMe page. Right now, the state of Florida funds people who have been wrongfully, convicted and have been sentenced $50,000 a year, assuming they even qualify, because that was enacted at a time after Mr. James was convicted. And I don't know, there's a question mark as to whether Mr. James will even be eligible for those funds. But assuming Mr. James was, just in 1 year alone, he spent 8,760 hours in a cage. And if you take those $50,000 and you divide by the hours, he would be compensated at the rate of $5.76
Wow.
for every 1 hour that he spent in a cage. And that is a devaluation of human life. That is a devaluation of human dignity.
That's right.
And that doesn't come anywhere near compensating what Mr. James should be entitled to, given this travesty and this tragedy that he's experienced. Now, when go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that when Mr. James said there's a lot of parts in the system, and if any one of them breaks down, he is precisely right. The American Civil Liberties Union issued a report in 2018 about the racial disparities in the criminal justice system in Miami-Dade County. And they found that at every single decision point in our system, Black defendants are treated more harshly and are more likely than white defendants to get arrested, to spend more time in pre-trial detention, to be subjected to greater periods of incarceration, longer periods of conviction. So at every single turn. And the reality is that if you come from an under-resourced neighborhood, and the difference between you getting out of jail pending trial and staying in jail is your ability to post a money bond. If you don't have the resources, if you don't have the money to pay for that bond, you're going to stay in jail waiting for your trial, okay? Which may take years, depending on the complexity of the case, before it's ready.
Right.
And the pressure, the absolute pressure to plead guilty in order to secure your release is almost something that is completely insurmountable. If you get arrested and your charges on a felony don't get filed until the 21st day, you've spent 3 weeks in jail, by the way, at a time when you're presumed innocent. And when you get to your first court appearance, which is an arraignment, and you're given an offer, a plea offer to close out your case, even though you are innocent, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get evicted. Who's going to pay my rent? Who's going to pay my bill? Am I going to lose my job?
Right.
Okay. Who's going to take care of my kids?
Right.
Who's going to feed my cat? There's such enormous pressure to take a plea and take it early, because otherwise, how do you survive? And guess who's taking these pleas? Guess who's taking these convictions?
Come on.
People living in under-resourced neighborhoods. And guess who those people are primarily?
Right.
People of color. People of color. And what impact does that have? The impact is that you have conviction upon conviction upon conviction on your prior record. And that impacts the next plea offer that you get. Because you get rearrested, and then all of a sudden, the plea offer is going to be enhanced.
Wow.
And there are coercive tactics that happen in our system. For example, sometimes you come first time in trial, they say, listen, we'll give you this offer, but this offer is only available today. You don't get that offer today, it will go up. Wait a minute. It's the
1 day offer.
Right.
We're there, and then there's been no investigation on the case. There's been no depositions taken on the case. You just got appointed your lawyer who knows nothing about the case other than what the police are representing happened on the case. So somebody who is, innocent might say, no, I'm not taking the plea. I want it set for trial. Trial gets set off months later. You file a motion in a case, a motion to suppress evidence, prosecutor might turn to you and say, by the way, you file that motion, you argue that motion, that plea offer is going to go up. So
now we're dealing with fear.
Even if it's coercive. It's coercive. So, my gosh, a person, even if they're factually innocent, is thinking, what do I do now? Do I take a risk that the judge is going to grant my motion to suppress, or is she going to believe the officer? Do I jump on that 1 year plea now, knowing that it's going to be tripled if I argue the motion? And then if you happen to lose the motion, the prosecutor says, listen, if you go to trial, I'm going to be asking for the max. And that's how even factually innocent people end up taking pleas to things that they were never guilty of.
I have a question. And it's burning because I was on a case and I was part of the jury, and it wasn't the same scenario, but they had somebody on trial for drugs, and the officers throughout the trial, I'll keep it short, the judge, we all figured out that the officers were not being honest. And it came out in trial very subtly, but it was caught. But the issue is the man was innocent. He wasn't innocent of taking recreational drugs, but he was innocent from not getting 100 kilo of cocaine from an undercover officer. But the problem was he was innocent, but the jury, and this is another issue too in the justice system. I had jurors around me who were telling me things like, well, let's convict him anyway. He's probably going to be up to no good anyway. So let's just
mentality.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's another issue too. But I'm very concerned when I hear this conversation, because aesthetically, we all know it, that we are the target.
That's right.
And yes, they get caught. Our young ones get caught up in the system, and they know that they don't have any money. They know that what you're saying. Yes, they don't have any way of bonding out. They don't have family members with money. They don't have anyone defending them. And so it's unfortunate, and I won't say this about the prosecutors, but they know that it's going to be very hard for them to prove their innocence. And so they take advantage of it to close the case out, because they got so many else they're dealing with. And so now you have, numbers and numbers of Black men in particular. Right. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to Latino men or Asian men, but we know that if we look at the records,
predominantly, right,
a large percentage of our Black men are heading into prison for these very same things, and they have no way of defending themselves. And I know that we have you on, and I know that everyone's going to be talking, but it disturbed me that I was in a case where this man could have been sent to 30 to 40 years in prison, and the officers, unfortunately, they were white. The only officer that exposed it was Black, and this man could have spent 40 years in prison for something that he didn't commit.
Right.
And it just so happens that I had a moral standing, and I made a stance with the jurors that that's not what we're doing. But how many people that doesn't do that?
And I hope everyone who's listening, I hope you're just as upset about this as Sister Michelle is. I hope it's making you feel uncomfortable when you hear Attorney Teresa Enriquez read these statistics to you. There are people and bodies behind those things. I do want to real quick, if I can, at least by way of introduction, to get Senator Dwight Bullard into the conversation, get closing words from Thomas Raynaud, and then we'll talk more with Teresa and Dwight. But Senator Bullard, as a lawmaker, you've seen this. As a representative of the NAACP, you've seen this. As a person who actually worked in helping on this situation with Thomas J as well, What say you about what you've been hearing, my dear brother? And by the way, this is a brother who went to be a lawmaker, but you found out he was around a whole bunch of lawbreakers. This brother stands his ground. He's a true freedom fighter. Senator Dwight Bullard, what say you, my good brother?
Hey, I appreciate you, Brother Lyle, and thanks for the invitation into the space. You know, this, people often talk about the system being broken or the system being fractured or the system being corrupt. I would say yes to the corruption, but being broken, one would have to assume that the system wasn't designed to do what it does. And I want people to understand that, right? That the system is designed to do what it does, which is roll over marginalized, historically marginalized Black, brown, and everything in between people, poor people, indigent people, homeless people. And I'm sure we're going to unpack it more, but I would just say this. The part of the reason why I fight so hard around electoral reform and getting people to vote is so you understand the folks making these laws do not have the interest of folks like Thomas Raynard James in mind. They don't have the interest of folks like Lal Muhammad in mind, Tony Muhammad in mind, even to a degree, Teresa Enriquez, right? Like surnames, the dismissal, the dehumanization of people of color is a constant, is a constant thing. And so having been in Tallahassee and having bore witness to those kinds of occurrences, I'm just here to let folks know when people say, why should you go vote? It is for Thomas Raynard James. When people say, well, why should I go? The reason you're going to vote is because you need to find people who are intentionally going to be concerned about the very things that we care most about, which is humanity, greater liberation, understanding that, a rising tide lifts all boats, that economics, that housing should be fair and equitable. Right. And so all I'm saying for the folks that are listening is that we can't just sort of just expect that we're going to, get our money up or, get our bank accounts up, get the right kind of job, because there's a system out there that has been specifically designed to undermine your greater humanity as a Black, brown person in this country, that in order to change it has to be fundamentally restructured, fundamentally reformed and reimagined, so that we get out of this hamster wheel that we've been on for almost 300 years, right? Of just constantly churning a particular kind of person through the system. So that means I'm encouraging people to run for office, whether that is school board, whether that is county commissioner, whether that is state legislator or Congress, but with a particular orientation that we cannot have any more Thomas Raynard James. We cannot have a scenario in which people spend 30 years because they have the same, name as somebody else, and because they have the same skin color as somebody else. We can't allow a system, that, and here's the fascinating part about it, and I'll shut up after this. Ms. Enriquez knows what the sentence is for breaking and entering in the state of Florida, right? For a simple B&E, what that would mean, how many years people serve for breaking and entering. Florida was overrepresented on January 6th in breaking into the capital of the United States. The harshest sentence that anyone has received to date is 3 years for the violent breaking and entering of the United States Capitol to undermine the very democracy that people say they hold so near and dear. So anytime you have a system that allows somebody to be on CNN, busting in a window at the Capitol, and that they get a slap on the wrist, but somebody who breaks in a house in Florida who looks black, brown, who happens to be 16, 15, 17 or older,
right,
and they can get 10 plus years, means that the system's out of whack, and we got to do something drastic to change it.
Sinister Bullet. I have a question. This is just, it's passionate for me because I did some of this when I first went into college. But my concern is that this system has been set up for us to fail, and it's pretty consistent. And there is it doesn't appear as though it's in the best interest of those that may be in power to remove it. Now, we know that prison, right? We know private corporations pay into the prison system.
Right.
We know that these unfortunate individuals, regardless, if it's not some heinous crime, right? They're being given these lengthy sentences because they need labor.
That's right.
There's a number of corporations that are going into this situation benefiting. They're selling this stuff on the stock market. This is big money. We are bodies. And so my question is that, when you can't even get, and, I won't even get into Kanye West, but if you can't even get them to recognize that the 13th Amendment itself should be removed, what hope do we have? Especially us that have young Black children or young Latino children or young, now may not be a lot of Asians that may not have this happen to, but we know Black and brown, it's happening to our babies and our family members, right? We can't even save them from from getting shot from a traffic stop. Right? That's gone wrong. But yet we get them into the prison system. They're spending 20. I mean, sometimes it's over, selling of marijuana. I mean, very minor crimes. They're in there for 10, 15, 20 years. But we know that they're working them. So I feel like that has to be addressed. And why? If they know that slavery was wrong, right? Why won't they deal with the 13th Amendment? Why won't they put a stop Black crime or stop brown crime, but they can do a stop Asian crime, right? But these things that are ending our family members in prison, what hope do they have when they won't even address the core issue of what's happening? Like when you can send somebody to jail and you can have them working pennies on the dollar for these big corporations building their cell phones and all these other things. How do we deal with that?
Let him answer, Sister Michelle, because you get ready to go get the
look, I'm trying to look. I'm like, is that, Sister Michelle, is that a question or?
Listen, she said it all right there, right? Ahead, I will take the question out of that, right? Which is, and take the opposite stance, right? You ask, what is the hope? The hope is when you see a sister from the Puerto Rican section of the Bronx,
right,
serving on the Supreme Court. The hope is when a sister named Kentanji from right here in Miami-Dade County can get through a system ultimately and take, what she knows of the Black community to the Supreme Court, right? Now I get what you're saying. Is the balance there? We got Uncle Thomas there, and everyone else. I get where people can get very daunted, very dismayed. But here's what I know. When she got up there and said that I am my ancestors' wildest dream, and she invoked the words of Maya Angelou, we're all representative of that. You know what I mean? We have been in this country subject to the worst conditions, have seen all the things. We can all, talk incessantly about all the damage, trauma, and abuse that has been done to our people. But we're here. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I need people to embrace that. A country designed to roll us over tried to do everything it possibly could to destroy us. And we're here. So that reminds me every day when I wake up that if there's breath in my lungs, if there's fight in my system, that I have a responsibility to stand on the shoulders of those ancestors, push this thing forward, and do the work. Because we all know all too well, for the generations that were enslaved, they were always hopeful of the idea that they would be free. So they couldn't conceptualize the idea that we'd be able to sit on a platform like this one and talk about how we can keep moving the boulder up that hill, right? And so all I would simply encourage folks who are listening to do is do anything and everything that you can. You know, we all work at different stations and avenues in, you know, in this work. And we're all got to be consistent in our intention around making sure that the system gets changed. You're absolutely right. Making a constitutional amendment to amend the 13th Amendment should have been the case. Heck, we should have already gotten the 3/5 taken out of the Constitution to begin with, right? We should go through a full-on revision process that takes all the best things, puts them in, and puts even better things into that to humanize the rest of us. All those are possible. But what I believe is that as you speak it into existence, that whether it's this generation or the next after that, there is always the possibility of that progress moving forward. When I think about and read about Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, I think about myself in that chain, right? That chain of existence that says that for that sister who did her darndest to help free 237 souls who were being brutalized on that journey from Maryland and North Carolina all the way, in many cases, to Canada, she could not have imagined that what we've experienced on the positive side. So that gives me all the hope that I need to envision the idea that it can be done. And I'm not trying to dismiss the pain that folks are going through in the current, but we got to stay committed to the cause, and we cannot lose hope.
Senator Bullard, if I could make a comment in regards to this. It's very important that we do work together. We're going to have different approaches, and we have to be unified. We can have disagreements in viewpoints, but we have to be unified when it comes down to these kind of issues, especially in the public. In the private, when we come together and we're organizing, yeah, we're going to have different viewpoints, but it's very necessary that we are unified. I remember Muhammad Ali was being interviewed by a newscaster one time, and then he saw Stokely Carmichael, who became known later on as Kwame Ture, came up, and Muhammad Ali embraced the brother and said, "This is my man, Stokely. What's up, man?" You know, and the newscaster immediately said, "Oh, well, you two have different approaches here. You know, why are you embracing him?" I said, "This is my brother. Don't be trying to divide me from my brother. You know, we have different approaches here." And of course, I mean, those of us here on this program, we're members of the Nation of Islam. We are always very much committed to the reformation of the human being, the reformation of the mind. Of course, we do need a whole new justice system to bring justice to our people. And so that is where there's a balance. Many of us, there are some of us here in the Nation of Islam who are attorneys, and we work for justice for our people. So here is where we have the balance. Until we accomplish many of the goals that we have in mind in establishing justice and freedom to our people, we have to make a concerted effort to work together. And
Brother Tony,
Senator Bullard, if you could expound a little bit about how. I'm sorry, my brother.
Yeah, before we go back to Senator Bullard, because I do want one more issue to be on the table.
Yes, sir.
Before we start talking about working together and unity and doing, you know, and I want Miss Enriquez to put this issue on the table in dealing with bail reform and bonding and what that issue does, and then from there we can talk about how we can work together and moving forward to create what we need to create. Can we do that?
Let's do it.
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that we can do to improve our current system. And one is completely reform our money bail system. Right now, if you get a standard bond and you cannot afford to pay that, as we discussed earlier, you're going to stay in custody for weeks, months, possibly years, depending on your case. And this is all during a period where you are presumed innocent. You haven't even been convicted yet. So there is a criminal work group that has been assembled in order to address this issue of bail reform. And I am on that subcommittee as a representative of Carlos Martinez, a public defender. The state attorney has a representative on the committee. There's a police representative. There's a representative from corrections. There's a representative from pretrial services. And we are all aligned in our belief that your social economic situation should not determine whether or not you are in or out of jail. And so what you're going to be seeing in the very near future is that instead of money being the determinator as to whether somebody stays in or gets out, every single person who comes into custody is going to be given what we call an instrument. An instrument is like an assessment tool. And that assessment tool it has sort of like a predictive quality. It's not accurate because anytime you're trying to predict something, it's just merely a prediction. But it is designed to predict what is your likelihood of appearing in court. What is your likelihood of staying arrest-free? And it looks back to determine how many times have you failed to appear in court over the past 2 years. That is a greater predictor of whether or not you might be a flight risk. It also looks to see, what you're charged with, whether you were out on release at the time that you picked up a new law violation. There's all these factors that it looks at. Now, we haven't rolled it out yet. We don't know whether it's going to be perfect or not. In fact, in my mind, I can kind of already see some issues, because if somebody's priors have been based on the fact that they live in a neighborhood that has been over-policed, okay, and they have failed to appear in court, not willfully, okay, the instrument doesn't really make a distinction between willful and not willful. So we're all sort of like cognizant of this, and we're going to be monitoring it, but the goal is to be able to release even more people. And if it has to be tweaked, then obviously it will be tweaked.
Ms. Teresa, let's look at straight numbers right now. I mean, I say straight numbers, but I'm going to ask you for an estimate. If bail reform were in place right now, and how much money you could pay to get out before your trial was not a factor, how many more people who are locked up right now in Dade County would be on the street?
I mean, it's hard to say. I will tell you, when the ACLU did their study, they found that 80% of the people were not able to bond out by first appearance. First appearance is a hearing that happens within 24, 48 hours of your arrest. 80% of the people were still in at first appearance. But through the course of the pendency of the case, 4/5 of the people were able to secure release prior to their trial. 4/5 of the people, because remember, you get appointed an attorney files another motion to try to get you released. We have an early representation unit where the attorneys assigned to that unit are devoted only to that one task, trying to get your cases reduced, trying to get your cases dismissed, trying to get you out of jail before charges are even filed. So really what we're focusing on is that 1/5 that is still left.
And that 1/5 probably has a familiar looking face and complexion and zip code.
Yeah, I mean, based on the ACLU, report that came out, and, people from, this ACLU report not only tracked individuals, their race, their ethnicity, but their zip code.
And that's in the chat, family. If you want to go and look at that whole report in its detail, we did include it.
You know, where they were arrested at the time, their charges. So they were able to get very detailed and granular in terms of where these arrests happening. You know, who from which zip code are people able to bond out? So that's one thing, but bail reform isn't the only thing. I think something else that is very, very damaging to people who go through the criminal justice system is all the collateral consequences of being convicted.
Collateral, run some collateral consequences.
There are consequences that have nothing to do with the sentence that you received, either after your trial or after you took a plea. For example, if you get a conviction or even, you know, something on your record that's not a conviction, it's a withhold of adjudication, it's likely going to affect your future employment. It's going to affect your ability to join the military, to possibly join law enforcement, to get a license for careers that require licensure, like nursing, even commercial driver. It's going to affect your ability to be eligible for financial federal aid, you know, to go to school. It might affect your housing. If you live in Section 8 housing or subsidized housing and you were convicted, you may not be eligible for that anymore. You might not even be able to visit your mom who does live in Section 8 housing. There are so many incredible consequences. You go to the court system, you don't pay your court costs, guess what? Your license is going to get suspended. Can you imagine you have a family to feed and your license gets suspended because you couldn't afford to pay those hefty court costs, which are hundreds and hundreds of dollars? And then, you know, you're driving to work, you get stopped, you get arrested, and you're in the system again, not being able to bond out, taking yet another plea, subject to more court costs. That's what we're talking about, the revolving door. So think about it. Think about what it's doing when you have the majority of people, I'm not telling you anecdotally, I'm telling you based on research. When you have the majority of people that are being arrested are people of color, okay? The majority of people in this community that are being convicted, that are being sentenced to prison. And then on top of that, they have trouble getting employment, housing, leveraging higher education. That is a sentence that lasts a lifetime.
May I talk about the implementation? I want to expound on the implementation of the law. I was just talking to Sister Michelle in regards to a law that they actually have in New York. And I know that, you know, we're dealing with Florida, but let's take it to another state. This law, well, this law is called the Good Samaritan Law. And the Good Samaritan Law is, even if you did a crime, even if you hurt somebody or harm somebody, if you call the police and say, hey, I did this, it was a mistake, something happened, you cannot get charged for that crime. Now, I'm seeing this.
It just want about that Good Samaritan law. That's if you're attempting to assist someone, right?
Exactly. Attempting to assist, because again, the call is the assistance. That's what they're specifying. Hey, if you're calling, you're saying you're making an attempt to help somebody. I'm calling the cops. I'm calling the police. So I'm bringing this to light because these implementations of the law, what we're going to do, instead of you hiding or going against the grain, I'm going to allow you to free yourself from your guilt. Right? And it kind of makes it to where the law is so black and white. There is no room for people, human people, because the law is not made for human nature. The law is not made to offset something that's going on, that a person can actually give my baby some drugs and say, by the way, I gave your somebody some drugs and they're dying right now. I'm just calling the cops to let you know that I tried to help them, but it's okay. How it versus somebody that's in a zip code, that's in a high crime area. You're born in this zip code. Now you become 15 or 16 and you're on a corner with your friends that you attended school with, and now you're a target. You're a target because maybe you and this person have the same color shirt on. So now you're considered a game because of your affiliation with somebody. It's just really, really sad how we are being grouped, right, as the enemy. And all we want is freedom, justice, and equality.
That's right.
So I don't have a question, because the only thing I can relate to is the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that specifies that this system cannot be changed. It has to be destroyed and rebuild again. Rebuild again with justice. Rebuild again with freedom. Rebuild equality, because this system is not built on equality. It's built on destruction and corruption.
So how about this as a way to round and close out? Because that was more than a mouthful. The question comes to mind. The question comes to mind. Where do we go from here?
Well,
And
wait
so,
a
in
minute,
looking
brother.
at that, because
Wait, hold
yes,
on.
ma'am.
Wait a minute, brother.
Go ahead.
I did have a question for Miss Adike.
Okay.
And it was on the bond program. And so I wanted to ask her about that, because I know that when it comes down to assessments, we typically, historically, don't do well when it comes down to assessments, right? And I felt when you mentioned it, I thought to myself, that could be a good idea. However, it seems like it would somewhat, or more than likely, would create a bias, only because I think what we were talking about earlier is like, and I know you're saying it might be tweaked, but I'm thinking that if there is an accessibility to determine if someone is a flight risk or not, more than likely, if somebody's coming from a situation where, you know what I mean, they, either they don't want to go to jail, you know what I mean, because of their situation, they're poor, or their situation is not good. And it's usually us coming from the poor neighborhoods that, they're more than likely they may not show up, right? And it's not because they don't want to, they just know that they may get charged incorrectly. They may get, coerced into something that they shouldn't. And so keeping that in mind, I know you said tweaking, but what it concerned me is that the assessment, we don't typically do well when it comes to that. And I just feel like, yeah, it might sound great, and there's probably a lot of work and study into it, considering the condition of our people in the system and in the streets, and the things that that are putting them in these predicaments. And sometimes it's their innocence, sometimes it's just them being at the wrong place at the wrong time, minor crimes. How do you deal with that assessment? Like, I know you're saying tweaking it, but my concern is, could it, or the thought process, could it make the situation worse? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask.
It can always make the situation worse. Absolutely. I mean, we don't know until we try it. I will tell you that the people who are not bonding out, they're the poorest. And our client, a lot of those clients aren't getting out anyway. So we're trying to try something different that'll be more of an equalizer. And I wish I could make an assurance, but I'm not prepared to do that. I think that we have to see how it, you know, what the results are.
Right, and considering the conditions of those individuals that are taking those assessments, then.
Of
right.
course, absolutely. You have a lot of the same concerns that, the defenders have.
Sure.
Yeah,
So with those concerns, sounds like we playing a music sheet. Everybody's saying we got to play a new song or get a new band or do something. So I'm going to right now, I'm going to put both. I'm going to put Teresa and I'm going to put Dwight. I'm going to put you all in charge of our justice system. You're in charge of it. Money's not an issue. You got an unlimited budget to do what you need to do. Human resources, none of those are issues. Where do you start and what do you do?
So that's it's an easy one, but you're not gonna like the answer. And that is I would tear the whole thing down and invest those funds into the actual services and things that help make our communities thrive, right? And people don't want to hear that. Mm-hmm. But I'm an abolitionist at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I view that as the North Star. Why do I view that as the North Star? This notion that we can live in a world where we can govern ourselves accordingly is because we haven't always lived in a world with a carceral state. We haven't always lived in America with a carceral state. We haven't always lived in America with militarized police forces. So if somehow we could do it at one point, why is it that we can't reimagine what life would be like to do it all over again, right? And so what I'm saying by that is, deeper investment in mental health services, deeper investment in anti-poverty services, deeper investment in drug rehabilitation programs. Why do I say those three things primarily? Studies show that 83% of the folks that are incarcerated due to mental health needs, issues around poverty, issues around addiction, right? As a means. So you're telling me that 83% of people that are being choked by the system don't have to be there because they haven't committed some sort of violent crime. They haven't So now we've taken it from 100% down to 17%. 17% is what we're talking about with the most violent folks that people always immediately attribute criminal systems to. Like, we want to get all these folks off the street. And I get that. And I get that folks are having a hard time processing that. But then if you bake into that historical trauma, generational trauma, where folks are coming from, how folks get to that, now it gets to what Sister Khalil is talking about, right? The ability to start teaching generations how to be better, how to treat women differently,
right?
How to respect their elders, how to respect community, how to not engage in violent acts against one another.
That's right.
Many of the violent acts that we have are crimes of proximity. Meaning that everyone wants to say black on black or this, that, or third. It is a crime of proximity.
That's right.
It is hurt people hurting other people who are closest to them.
That's
right.
Well, Dwight, my headphone just went out on that one, right? You said it's not black on black. It's proximity. Explain that again, my brother.
What I'm saying is, people commit crimes against the people physically closest to them,
right,
irrespective of race, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, this notion of these people are more violent than those folks. All that is ultimately a byproduct of the system that has been created. When people start giving you, well, what are the most violent zip codes? Let's break down the reasons why you're calling these the most violent zip codes.
Come on.
It's because they're under-resourced, under-invested. It's because they don't have access to services.
Yep.
Is that the reason why they're the most violent? Is it because we have a system that means that an ambulance won't respond to my zip code in the amount of time that it responds to other zip codes because of affluence? Like, there's so many variables, right, that have that are attached to racism, poverty, and just being indiscriminately inhumane that have created the system that we have. So to your question, Brother Lau, give me the resources, let me invest them in the things that people need in order to thrive and survive. And guess what you will find? What you find in so many other affluent communities. There's not a lack, there's not a need then for more police patrols. There's not a need then for the mass incarceration of people. There's not a need for those because the best and most often resourced communities don't have those quote unquote problems. So that's what I would do with that investment.
That's awesome, man. He's not running for office to do that, family, just in case you didn't know. And neither is Teresa, but we're gonna give you the same unlimited budget, Teresa. We're gonna give you the same unlimited human resources. What say you?
So since Senator Bullard talked about sort of one, extreme, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what I think is very realistic right now. Okay? Take a wild guess how much the taxpayers spend to keep a person incarcerated for one night in a Dade County jail. How much do you think it costs?
$500.
$800. $1,500.
Okay, not that much. Okay, it's actually, the price of a very, very nice hotel. Although the cost of living is getting so high these days, but it's $240 a night. If you keep somebody in jail for 1 year, and I'm just talking about here in the county, I'm not even talking about prison. For one individual, 1 year, you're spending $87,360 to house one individual at a local jail. And that's here in Miami. In New York, you're spending over $800 a night. It does not make sense financially to warehouse people and to incarcerate them. And in fact, right now, there are very conservative think tanks all over the country, conservative think tanks that are looking at this from a fiscal perspective and saying, this doesn't make financial sense. Imagine what we can do if we have $87,000 to invest in the future of one young African American man a year. So we're not. We need to, like Senator Bullard said, we need to use these resources on the front end. Right now, we have obviously a lot of people in state prison. People serve on average 85% of their sentence. I think that something that is very realistic is that you take a large group of those people. The state and the legislators are probably not going to, agree to do this on high-level crimes like murders or sexual batteries. But you take all these people that are serving 85% of the time, and you release them on a conditional release after they've served 65% of their time. You release them early. Of course, would you want them to be released immediately? I'm giving you what I think is a very realistic plan to do now. And then what you do with those people who are getting released after only having served 65% of their time, you put them on a conditional release with reentry services. You don't do what you're doing now, which is giving every person who gets released from state prison $50 and a bus pass. Can you imagine? You served 20 years.
Did you just say $50 and a bus pass?
Yeah. When you get out of state prison, you get $50 and a bus pass. And no support. Some people have no support whatsoever, no skills. We talk about rehabilitation. Rehabilitation assumes that there was rehabilitation in the first place. Some of these people, in prison have never had mentorship, support, love, education. financial literacy. Forget the rehabilitation. They need habilitation that should start from day one, the moment they get into prison. And by the way, we should be diverting as many people from prison the way as possible. There's so many services in this community, so many services with so many beds, yet we're all working in silos. We're all working separately, you know? I mean, we need to make the system more connected so that I can pick up the phone and say to this program, listen, I have this individual. Do you have a bed? Get him out of the local jail immediately, pre-conviction. Even pre-conviction, pre-trial, you get them into the program, you get them the services they need, and if they do well, maybe you dismiss the case. And this program will not only give them substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, both of them they need, both of them they need both, but how about employment services? How about after you finish your residential treatment, you step down to supported housing? And after supported housing, we try to help you get housing within the community and assist you in that regard. Miami-Dade does not have a good reentry program. We have no support for our returning citizens from state prison.
And then they look at organizations like us for do all the work with no resources.
That's right.
You know? And so I think that is definitely one thing that we should do. Another thing is that a lot more people need to be diverted away from the court system. Right now, we have ways to divert people from the court system. We have a drug court, we have a mental health court, we have a veterans court. But guess what? You have a lot of priors, you're not eligible. Those are the people with the long priors are the ones that need the most help.
There's more lynchpins in this thing than pins in a lynch.
You know, those are the people. Those are really the people. I mean, you have a really long list of priors, and you keep coming through the revolving door. We should say, you know what? You're actually the candidate. You're the best candidate. Let's work with you.
Wow. Well, we've been fed some real good food. Sound like we need a justice coalition. You know,
right.
Sister Kalila, I know we were going to read into the record. Speaking of a justice coalition, you know, our ministry of justice has some very important principles involved in it. And I think a great way to close out, if we could read it and then just have both Teresa and Dwight, you know, give us some feedback. And I just want to thank both of you, first of all, just for being so candid and being so real. I do want to remind people who you're listening to, right? You're not listening to some brother just talk who didn't walk them hallways. This is former state senator Dwight Bullard, right? And attorney Teresa Enriquez, she is the chief assistant to the lead public defender in the entire Dade County, family. So I want you to know who you're talking to here. Do we have that, Sister Kalila?
Yes, sir.
Of course, you're going to make it small, so I got to switch. This is supposed to be justice, Sister Kalila. This is not just for me to try to read that.
It's on your talking point, brother.
So I will go to my talking point and act like I'm looking at that little slide you got right there. And I'm going to read these words, family. And then again, Dwight and Teresa, you close out how you want to based upon hearing this. The Ministry of Justice protects the rights and privileges of the members of the society and provides for penalties to be imposed upon persons who violate or threaten to violate the law or disrupt the peace. No member of the community shall forfeit his or her rights and privileges of membership in the community without just cause and without due process in reaching a determination that such cause exists. The ministry is charged with the development of an independent judicial system in order to carry out its charge. It also initiates legal action, including class actions against external entities, including governments, corporations, institutions, and or individuals who through their actions pose a threat to the essential rights of the members of this community. Now, in all honesty, both of you spoke to the first aspect of that. You really both did. But what about class action suits? What about stands for justice against individuals and institutions that are helping to perpetuate these type of things that we've been talking about? But however you all choose to close out, the floor is yours.
You think he's giving you the floor, Mr. Enrique?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I don't want to jump in. You know, obviously my arena is the criminal arena. We don't deal in civil lawsuits or class actions, so I'm a little bit out of my depth here. But absolutely, I mean, I think that every individual should leverage every legal tool available to them in this country if you feel that rights have been violated or you want to hold other entities accountable. I mean, that's absolutely you're right. And I know that you said that we spent a lot of time talking about the first, part of your statement, but I have to say, I really appreciate how you have included due process, as part of that, because obviously due process is my love language. And I think that that's very important, always giving people an opportunity to be heard before decisions are made that are going to impact their life and livelihood.
What I took away from it, you're on mute, Brother Lau. So
I just wanted to say before coming to Dwight that the office that Teresa works for actually allows now for all new public defenders to come through our cultural awareness training. So as soon as they're hired, they got to come see the bros.
definitely nothing wrong with that. My two takeaways, I think more like additions, right? And that is that for me, a due process. I understand the legal definition of due process, but a just due process is rooted in restorative justice. At the end of the day, for these brothers and sisters who are coming back into community, if they've done harm, there has to be a community desire to integrate them back into community, right? But there also has to be a penance that person has recognized the harm that they've done, and thus the community becomes restored because there's a mutual understanding between both parties that this will not happen again, or there will be consequences to the like, right? So I think that there has to be something there. For the second piece, the word that kept bubbling up was reparations, right? And that is, I mean, that for me is real, and that is a recognition that corporations, that entities have continually been a part of a process that hurts and harms people in communities, whether that is illegal dumping, whether that is, extraction from our environment, extraction of wealth, whether that is, actual physical harm. I know we talked about private prisons as an example. So, there needs to be a pathway or an opportunity for those who have been harmed to receive some sort of benefit from those entities for the harm that they've caused. And to bring it full circle, one of the first things that a justice coalition might want to think about is the very thing that's going to keep Brother James from getting the minimal amount of money that the state should be giving him, which is them trying to say that because he has a record, that somehow he's undeserved of the injustice that was inflicted upon him by an unjust system.
Right.
That is a matter of law. That is a matter of electing a governor and a legislature that cares enough to take that simple language out of statute, right? That is a question that I don't know if there was going to be like a gubernatorial debate on July 21st at NBC6 in Miami for the Democratic nominees for governor of the state of Florida, that should be asked by whoever the host may be. Shout out to Brother Jawan Strader if he happens to be the host of said debate, right? But these
I think I'll give our brother a call.
Yeah, these are the kinds of questions that need to be asked at every public forum with any state legislator or any state Senate candidate that comes up, because that is a simple and I think just law change, considering we now have in our Constitution the fact that these brothers and sisters can finally get their voting rights restored, as a part of the elimination or the completion of their sentence, right? And so those kind of first steps and things we can wrap our arms around collectively, like that should be a universal lift. Right. That somebody in a position like Brother James, irrespective of whatever he had done before, is deserved of that money. That's because the state incarcerated that man for 30 years unjustly.
That's right.
And somebody owes him, not some letter of apology ain't gonna do it.
Right. Don't mind me, Dwight. I gotta say it, brother. 32.
Yes.
Calendar years. He said calendar years.
Woo.
Yeah. And for those of people who need some understanding, if you've been watching TV One, I'm gonna put it to you this way. He's been in jail since The Cosby Show and A Different World went off the air.
How about that?
That's a long.
I want you to think about that. Right?
Very long time.
I need you to say that one more time, Brother Senator, because my earphone went out.
He has been in jail longer, actually, than before The Cosby Show and A Different World went off the air. When those shows stopped.
Brother Bullard, I have a question, and Ms. Enriquez, I have a question, and also this question.
You asking questions after we closing out, Brother Tony?
Well, I have this question. Well, this with the issue of justice. See, when a person serves prison time for 30 years, especially unjustly, and now they're coming out
32
years.
You got to give them 2.
32 years. How long does it take them to adjust or readjust to society? You see, that has to be factored in.
Right.
Well, this is the brother here who's responsible for putting together classes and curriculums to guide our brothers and sisters after those experiences. And I'm only going to share this in short, just to let people know how serious what Brother Tony just said is. I remember teaching a class after this particular brother. He'd been locked up for 23 years. And he came to class one morning and his face was like scraped, and like he had on the whole side of his body scraped up. And so, he comes to class. What happened, brother? Brother was on his way to class in a car, and the car started talking. He jumped out of the car. He never heard a car talk before.
Wow.
We have no idea of the adjustment that our brothers and sisters have to go through after being away. Wow. We're talking about paradigm shifts in technology, paradigm shifts in inventions in societies. And so it's tremendous. It's tremendous.
Communicate. Yes, sir, Brother Lau.
To put that in perspective, Brother Lau, the internet does not become a thing until 1992. That brother's been in jail since 1990.
Right. That's facts.
Right? I need people to think about that, right? Like, so, yeah, spot on.
Right. And Dwight, I want to say it publicly. Dwight, I want to give you a shout out. Dwight's one of those brothers that was helping us work behind the scenes with our brother Thomas. When let's just keep it real, where other public officials and people, they want to take credit you know, for certain things. But that is a brother who doesn't want to take credit. He wants to see the job done. And Teresa, and I have to say it again, I just thank you for being with us on this evening. The work that you've done over the last 27 years has been remarkable. And I'll say it again, I believe you work for the most progressive public defender's office in our country, and we need more of that work to go on. So I don't know if my other brothers and sisters have anything in closing, but I will definitely
Well, thank you, Brother Loud. No, just want to thank both of them as well.
Yes.
Great
Yes.
conversation. I hope and Ms. Enrique that you're successful. We definitely need your help. So whatever you can do, I think we will stand behind you. What right to help you do what's right, and I think that's important. I think the criminal justice system it's broken. We all know that, but the fact that you're on and you're talking about what you want to do to help, that's important.
Right.
And I think that's what needs to echo right through what we're seeing this evening. And of course, Senator Bullet, appreciate your candor and and everything that you brought to the table. I think both of you are very strong community advocates, right, in your own right. And again, just very thankful to be a part of the panel this evening. And we just we got to keep it in prayer, and we got to move. We pray and move. We don't pray and stop. We pray and move. And again, hope that you and again Mr. Enrique are successful in doing the right things for our people. So thank you for coming on.
beautiful.
And thank you so much for having us. This has been such a wonderful conversation and a much needed one at a very important time.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the invitation, and thank y'all for providing this platform for all the different topics, because all these discussions are super important to move us along. So thank y'all.
That we shall continue. Brother Tony, Sister Kalila, anything in closing?
Just again, I'm just always honored, to bring awareness to people that do not know, are not aware of what's going on. A lot of times you don't hear from a Miss Teresa when someone needs help. You don't hear from a Senator Dwight when people need help. Right now, people are listening to you and they know how or what is happening in regards to what is being trickled down in the system and how they can get that help. And they know who they can contact. I'm just thankful that you all allowed us to just kind of pull what is necessary to establish what we are looking for, and that's justice.
That's right.
So I thank you again for your time, your energy, and your support.
Beautiful.
Brother Lyle, and I wanted to reemphasize, regardless to our different viewpoints,
Sure.
we have to continue to work in unison
Absolutely.
and provide justice on different levels. We could be working on different levels within the system, outside of the system, working on rehabilitation once our brothers and sisters come out and provide the services that they need. But of course, a lot more is needed. And so I just thank you for your service, Sister Teresa and Brother Dwight. We thank you for your service and your commitment to bringing justice to our people.
So beautifully said. And I'll say this on behalf of our brother Thomas Raynard James, who had to leave us before leaving off. Family, just put those moccasins on for a second.
Come on.
And I remember while we were working for his case, we were out. When you go out, you put up the street signs and you had the people blow the horns and honk. And there were youth out there with us, And I'll be honest, in being in this fight for a while, I didn't think our brother was going to get out so soon. And not now so soon to us, 32 years for him. I'm talking about the time frame that we were involved in working on this situation. But the beautiful fact that those babies and those children got a chance to see a stand for justice and then a man freed, that's a beautiful sight. And I want us to keep up hope, because I know we got brothers and sisters that are still languishing behind those bars that need our help and our support, and they cannot do it without us.
That's right.
I mean, so as we close out, Teresa and Dwight, we always let the people know we're not a gang, we're not a clique or
hold
a crew.
on. We have a couple of clips I wanted to show. It is a long clip, so we might have to part ways with our sister and our brother, because I always want to end our show with the minister, and he's talking beautifully about the justice system. So I don't want to belabor you, Miss Teresa, Brother Dwight. I can, you all have shared such a wonderful space with us. But again, I want to share this clip, and I just thank you all for coming to our show.
So we thank both of you. And Sister Kalila is going to have the minister close us out, and that's a blessed thing. We always would love that to take place. And the clip is how long, Sister Kalila, just so we're on point?
It is actually 9 minutes, but
so
they're nine good minutes.
We want you to catch it. We want you to watch it now, but go get your dinner and your family and your children too.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Bless you both.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Where's that clip, sister? If I'd have known how they used to say on the Flip Wilson, if I'd have known you was going to say that, I'd have said nothing. You'd have played that clip.
Listen, I wanted to. First of all, let me see something here.
If you play it now, we can get off by 9.
Right, and
play it now.
That's right.
Hold on, let me see something.
Your brother lie. I'm with you.
Right, exactly. I'm trying.
I'm with you.
I'm coming. Hold on, because it's so many of them.
Too. Why? I thought you already had it. Come on now, Sister Kalila, and look.
I'm coming.
Whichever speech it is from, please put the entirety of it in the chat, so our brothers and sisters can have access to the whole message as well.
Okay, hold on. Here you go. Hold on. I'm coming to you right now. And we're going to close this thing out with the minister in regards to justice. Hold on. Y'all pulling up the slides. I can't with you all.
Oh, Lord.
Was charged with murder.
I'm going to go all the way back. Hold on. Bear with me.
Oh, I remember.
O.J. Simpson was charged with murder. And in a court of law with a jury of his peers, he was set free. A lot of folk didn't like that, so they sued him. And he lost in court because even though he was not convicted of murder, they said he's responsible. White folk are rich and powerful, the rich and powerful, because black folk worked for 310 years as chattel slaves and got not one day's pay. I could call out the rich and the powerful whose riches have been gotten on our backs, but I'll save that for another time. The point is, the present generation of whites did not do this. But the present generation of whites are in their privileged position because of what a former generation of whites have done. Now the question is, a black agenda should be put before them, because if they don't accept the responsibility to clean up this problem, you don't have a lot of time to wait 40 more years for a benevolent white president or a benevolent black president. That day is over. America is facing the judgment of God as we sit around this table. Look at the weather. Look at the world turning down on her. America is bankrupt. $13 trillion in debt. And if you figure Medicare and Medicaid, she's over $60 trillion in debt. She can never pay it. That's why she voted for $650 billion in armament, because she can't pay the debt. But she can bully those whom she is in debt to with fear over her military prowess. I'm here to tell you she's losing there too. Now I close. Our people need repair. We need repair from 310 years of chattel slavery, where black men were forced to be studs, to make black women pregnant, to make more slaves for the slave master. And that same unhealthy attitude of misusing our women and making babies that we have no desire to take care of is still with us. Willie Lynch, who gave the ways that we could keep being divided so that they could rule us for 1,000 years. That sickness is still with us. Yes, we got a black president, but brother said it was confusion. He confused the issue. But really, he never wants to lose the white vote. So if he loses the white vote, he don't care that you voted for him. But if he loses the white vote, he feels he will lose. Dear brother, if you're watching, out of love, you won't lose the white vote of those whites that really understand this problem and know that this problem needs to be solved, and we can't keep relegating it to generation after generation because a few of us got a little money, a few of us got positions, a few of us have wealth, while the masses of our people are going steadily down. No one man can rise above the condition of his people. Amen. So President Obama, this august body of brothers and sisters that really love you want you to use your bully pulpit, but then after you do that, then what about us? Mm-hmm. See, brother said responsibility. Is it that we should let them take responsibility to do for us, or should we pool the knowledge that's at the table, the power that's in our community, the wealth that's in our community to change the harsh reality of black life in America? He can create an atmosphere, but we have to do the job of fulfilling the black agenda. Thank you.
Yes, we have to do that job. We, us, y'all.
We, collectively, with unity.
All right. We're good.
We're
good.
No justice.
No
peace.
No peace.
All right.
Let's go, family.
Greetings. Bye, everybody.